Okay, now we need to start talking about how our actual project, which is migrations and models. But before we get to that, there's a concept we need to talk about, which is Django Apps, right? To talk about Django Apps, the first thing to do is let me open a test file where we can like write our thoughts and everything. So, trying to check something. Then we have if you've watched the video on Terminal, you actually enjoy what I just did. If you haven't, you know what? Actually, I can make it work. Okay, so this is our misc.txt. Like where I wrote a couple of things down that I would like to explain. So the way Django apps work is that when you do Django admin start project, it creates a whole project for you, right? Then apps are like sub packages in Python that do specific things, like specific things. Take our LMS. We are trying to build an LMS, right? A learning management site. Take the elements we are trying to build for an example. Like let's try to mirror Zuri board, right? When you look at Zuri board, what are the things you see? You see polls, right? There's something called polls. If you check the left corner, there's a poll, there's posts, there's a task, there's users and like teams, like all those sort of things. Those are each one of them are, if you wanted to create the LMS in Django, each of them would be specific apps, right? Specific apps that do just one thing. The polls is for taking polls. The what's it called? The blog is for writing blog posts and students and interns can comment on it. The task is where you get your tasks and you submit. Then the users are like each specific users, right? Yes, good. And that's like the concept of apps, right? You for each your app should do just a thing. Like you can't have an app now that is doing polls and doing blog comment. That goes against the core practices of using Django. An app should have like a distinct function, right? A blog post and stuff like that. So now let's talk more about what I mean by all those apps, right? So an app an example of an app can be polls, right? Polls where you get information about things, right? About things from user or anybody self, basically from user, right? So like maybe for the polls now, they can a question can be like for the polls now, you can have a question, like you can have a couple of questions, right? ID and question. That's like ID is the same thing as number, right? Number one, question number two. Then question is like the real question, the question you want to know more about. So it can be, are you happy about the quality of the training? That's a question, right? Maybe we want to take a poll on it. We want to have another question, which is what do you think about something like Django middleware or something, right? It can be a question, right? Then the first one, are you happy about the quality of the training? That's a question, right? Then you want to have an answer poll, right? Which is what we have choice, right? There's a question, there's a bunch of questions, and under the questions, like for example, are you happy about the quality of the training? And there should be something called like yes underneath it or no. Some users will click yes, some users will click no. Like not everybody's happy about the qualities. Like that's like normal. Then the other one, what do you think about our Django middleware? What do you think about Django middleware? This is like a more technical question. I mean, not that technical to be honest. Then you can have like never heard of it. You can have I think it's cool, right? You can have like maybe 3 people saying I think it's cool. Then you have like 90 people saying I've never heard of it. I can even have a third option, which is I've heard about it, but I don't know much. Don't know much about it. Don't know much about it. Kind of like 10 people saying that or something, right? And that's like the concept of how a specific app can be. Like that's just an app in your project. Let's say you have a big project that can be like an app, right? So we know that for every choice there must be a question, right? What does that mean? That before you can make a choice there must be a question. Like you can't just say yes on nothing. There has to be this: are you happy? Before you can say yes, right, or no. And for every you can have a question that does not have a choice, right? You can just have a question like question number 3, which is just like how are you? Like you might not just answer. Like you can see the question and just ignore it or something. And that's like a concept you should with models. I've started talking about models, right? And apps and models like that. So that's a very big concept you should. And another example can be tweets. I mean, I know a lot of you guys tweets and stuff. So you can have a tweet, right, that does not have any like, that does not have any retweet. But to have a like, there must be a tweet. Like you can't just have a like without any tweets. That's not possible. There must be a tweet that you can like, right? But you can have a tweet that has no likes. That's like normal. Like it's logic, but like if it's logic, if you take your time to think about it, it will make sense. Right? I don't think I can go any better than that. Okay, so that's one. That's one. Don't worry about this. Don't worry about this. Another app can be student task, right? I'm very sure on your LMS you see something like the name of the task, the description of the task, description, then date posted. So the description of the task, it can be the name of the task can be adding integer. The description can be something like use variables to add numbers or something. Use variables. I'm going to provide this video, this audio, this book, I guess. Use variables to add integers or something. This can be the description. Like if you check your LMS, there should be something like this there. This can be a description. The date it was posted, June 16, the deadline for when you should submit, maybe a day after. Then the mode of submission. Right, mode of submission. It can be click to upload, it can be URL or something, your choice, right? Or like depending on the question on the student task. Therefore, the admin, which is like the mentor, will see something like we might see something like a track or something, like track, question track or something, question track, which is something like it can be something like Python / integer or something, to show us that this is the nature of the task. You can have like students, right? You can have like Python. You can have like student ID, the student's specific ID. You can have graded, if the student was graded or not. You can have URL, submission. You can have like submission mode. So it can be URL, like this URL the students, and the student scores maybe 0.5/10. So this is another example of what we can have in an app, in a specific app that does just this management of the task. Right? Even you can actually split it into like multiple apps, right? Where we have student task, right, alone, admin task alone. What I'm like, that's very possible. Like, you know, admin task now, then admin task will now have something like admin task will have something like number of admin, like, right? Then each then number of admin tracks, number, it will have like something like number of admin, and it will have categories. So like, there's front end task, back end task, everything. It will link admins to their task and stuff like that. That can be a specific app. A student task can be just for students, right? Then you can have like front end student, back end student, or something. I'm just like that. Those are ideas out there, right? Student task, admin task. Then on the LMS too, there's something called blog, right? Where everybody understands the concept of blog. Post and comment. You have a post, right? You can have a post about how to make more money or something, right? Then the post description can be get rich in 30 seconds or something, right? The content can be what the person thinks will get him rich in 30 seconds, right? And the date he or she published the task, right? Then comments can be comment, message, post, date comment was made. So comments can be what are you talking about, right? And this person is commenting under this post, how to make money, and the date the person made the comment is like June 30th or something. So you get the idea that it's just the same thing with our post, where you can have a post that does not have any comments, but you can't have a comment without a post. So really they are linked. That sort of relationship is expressed in the model, but like the whole overview of the whole thing is in our blog, right? Exactly, right? So that means we've explained three different apps that we can even create in our LMS, but we are going to be creating two, right? We'll start with the polls, right? So we can have like Django, to create the polls now we can have like Python manage.py starter. It's a command. If you want to know the commands on that manage.py, you also want Python manage.py to give you a bunch of commands, which some of them you need: change password, create super user, remove stale content types. Like most of them you don't even need it in your day-to-day. The ones you need are make migrations, you need migrate, which we will get to in time. You need startup, start project, squash migration sometimes, test sometimes, collect static sometimes, run server, right? We will use this almost all the time. So this is the startup we want. Like so Python manage.py startup polls. Then you give it the name of the app you want to start. So polls. Right? Notice there's nothing here. If we click on it, polls has been created. And like I said initially, polls is a what? Python package. A Python package. How do we know it's a package? Because of the presence of underscore init.py. You can just come to Google. It's so how do we identify a Python package? No, not the version. How do we know? See, in a way, a package in Python takes the concept of the modular approach to next logical level, blah blah blah. See, basically, see, this is it. Underscore init.py. That's just how you know this is a package, right? And this is how, like, that's one of the ways you know, right? This is a package in Python. Like the pose is a package, right? Under pose we have these files, this. I will explain what each file does in a minute. But before that, let's explain something under LMS. So this is another package too. This one is automatically generated when you run start project, right? There's something called settings.py, right? If you read Django settings for LMS project, so it has a bunch of installed apps, middleware. This was the middleware I was talking about. We will explain it in due time. You will definitely use it in your projects, so please watch out for it on most of your projects. Then you have database. So this database was created as a result of this. If we had removed this one, trust me, when we run Python, if we delete this one and we run Python manage run server, it won't run. Like it won't run the data. It might even give error because it's already built in. And the database used here is SQLite. It's a type of database. Right. SQLite database. It's a very simple database. SQLite. See, this is the home page. You can read more about it. What is in SQLite database? It's a relational database manager. You can also use something like PostgreSQL. Yeah, the world's most advanced open source project. This is a very big so in production you use Postgres. If you don't use Postgres, you use MySQL or something. These are all databases to store our information. You can use MySQL. There's also something called MongoDB. This is not a relational database, but I mean it's there too. So these are Maria. See, we have tons of database. So you and your production team will probably sit down, think about why are we using this database? What does it offer us that the other one does not offer us? So those are all decisions you make. You don't just write code. And if you are using like a Postgres database, you probably want to change this one into Django.postgres C automatically, something like that. But that's not where we are going today. So this is the settings file, right? Use TZ. You can change this one to false and change the time zone to Africa/Lagos to match our time. Like if you notice from running the run server, see, run server 0803 and the time then was 0903, so it's 1 hour behind. If you want to set the time to be Nigerian time, you probably want to change this one to Africa/Lagos, like something like this. Or if you are not in Africa, you can go to internet, go to this place and read more about your locality and how to add it. That's not the purpose of this video, just to give you more information, I guess. Good. Now that's settings.py, very important. We'll come back to this concept. We need it. Right. So that's it. Now let's go into our apps. One of our app polls. Admin.py is used to register this. Is used to register this poll with Django admin. There's a Django admin that Django has already created for you, right? Apps. Okay, well, I'll explain this one. Models.py. This is where our logic. This is where we want. This is the reason for this tutorial video, which we will get to. Tests, for writing tests, then view. So this view and URLs work together. I don't know why URLs never. Well, there has to be a reason. Probably check about it on your own time. Let's create ls echo post/urls.py. This is to create a file called urls. See, notice there is no file called urls.py, but if we create it, see, now we have urls.py. Okay, so these are the post, that's migrations. This is a folder. I will explain this folder. URLs. These two work hand in hand. This will probably be the topic for next week or maybe later this week. URLs and views. So the way URLs and views work is this. I wrote it down here, right? So let's say the name of our website is https.com. This is the name of our website, right? The domain. So once you click on our website or on our application, let me use website. Website is to whatever. So let's say this is the name of our application, right? You click on it, it takes you to this URL or something. Then you do //. So what actually happens is here under URLs we'll have defined something called //, right? And we'll tell it that anytime anybody calls / maybe // takes a name or something. So we'll tell you that anytime that someone clicks on // it will go to view / or something, right? And it should pass that name that the person entered. So right, it will come here to these views, and inside these views would have already defined something called view /, right? A class called views or a function here, but most of the time it's a class because that's it. Django is more about. So right, inside this place we'll probably have something that takes name. I take name or something. You have something that takes name and searches the database for that name, right? So we can have takes name and searches the database for that name, right? So we return something like found or not found, something. I'm just like this is a rough sketch of what's happening underneath, right? Not found, any one of the two, if it's found or not found, right? So then you as the user, you probably don't understand, you don't need all these ones. All you need to do is just // and when you search, maybe you search for MongoDB or something, and we have MongoDB in our database, so you want to see maybe MongoDB 1, MongoDB 2, or something relatable. So let's say you search for Ozark, right? And do like Ozark Penelope or something. What's their name? I can't remember. Ozark was Corn Master or something. Like just different things about Ozark, and that's like the way Django links all these things. So when you see a URL, when you go to maybe a website or like Gmail, right? When you click on /inbox, there's a /inbox URL underneath somewhere in these URLs that is linking to a view. Like, and this view is where the logic happens. So this is like where we do most of our logic, right? Logic / processing / controller / application, like whatever you want to call it. This is where you write the logical code and stuff. The other ones are just like defining blueprints most of the time. So that's the idea between URLs and searches, right? Okay, now that's it. So now let's explain, and that's URLs for us, like URLs and views, how they work. Now let's go back to our model, which is, so now that we have all those backstory, right? Now think of the app we want to make polls, right? Questions and questions and what was the other thing? Sorry. Questions and choices, right? So like, what's a question? Like, what should a question have? A question should have a number, right? A question should have a number, right? Class question, models.model. A question should have a number, right? A question should have a name of the question. It should have the date the question was published, right? And that's the blueprint of our question. But like, this does not make sense. Python does not understand this thing. Your database that you are sending it to does not understand this thing. Django itself does not understand it. So we want to write this, what I mean by this, in a form that Django understands, in a form that Python and Django understands, right? So what we do is we inherit models. So what basically what this thing is doing is, let me explain. Control text. I want to set my interpreter. So existing project. Yes, Django tutorial VM. This is my, so it shows, see, we have Django 3. These are just the things I have under my Django folder, like under my VM, right? Won't click on OK. Now we have it. So we can now go to models.model.py. See, like this is inside Django. Something. This is the source code that makes Django. Like all these files. Think about if, because just wanted to create a question, like just a blueprint for a question, if we have to write all these things, right? If we have to write all these things, just because we wanted to create a question, right? Over 2,000 lines, just because we wanted to create a question, and that's just, so the time it takes you to, and that's where Django comes in. It does all these little things for us, right? Yeah. So after inheriting the models, we will now be able to use a lot of the things inside models, and one of the things inside models is something like id equals to models.primary key or something. Primary key. We have name abi, question name abi, or what was the name I wanted to use? Question text, not name. Question text is models.character field. Character field takes something very important called max length, which is 255. Like we just set any number, a number, that's the date, and that's the number. Then we want to set date too, right? The date the question was asked, or in our case the date the question was posted. Published dates, right? What I'm doing is there's a Django official tutorial that I'm following. So if you've seen if you've maybe done the tutorial, you probably understand what I'm doing. If you've not done it, please watch on how to now add true, right? So like basically what this thing means is that where's my mouse? So basically what this means is that a question will have a number, like number 1. Then it has a character field. A character field is the same thing as a string. Are you happy about Django? Right? This is what you should be seeing in your head. Then pub date it was published maybe June 16 at 09:50 West African time or something. Right, or something like this. True. You just any are you, then the date published or something, just like I wrote in MIT. So basically, and then the June 17, maybe at 10 o'clock West African time or something, because I'm in West Africa. Yeah. Then my mouse is acting up. So this is what you should be thinking when you see these models, right? See, let's copy it under MICT because you guys might need it. So it will be 4, it will be 5. So when you are watching the video, you can watch it on like 1.5 to make it faster, because it's a very long video, and you can have something like date here, right? Now let's go back to our models. But the thing with Django is we don't have to specifically create this thing, right? This one is to be auto increment or something. If you're writing to increment, it will be true. What this means is that it will automatically, after you create 1, the next one should be 2. After 2, the next one should be 3. So basically that's auto increment. This ID is like our number, but Django already does this for us. Like if you will know if you read the Django tutorial. Django already does things like this for us, so we don't need to put it there. These are enough. So automatically Django will count the number for us. All we need to do is define our question and the date we posted the question, right? So you might be wondering, how do I know when to use character field, datetime field, and stuff like that? There is a Django documentation. You can go to Django. You can just do Django models field. I see I typed it already. You can go to field type, right? Go to field type. You have these are the types of field we have. We have auto field, big field, and you can click on like character field now. A string, it tells you a string field for small to large. Character.max field required. So this is a required field. You have to always add max when you are using character field. You have to use max length, or else you get an error. Then there's boolean field, which can be like boolean field, true or false, right? Maybe if you have a question that you want to put true or false, so that will probably be under choices. You have an integer field, which is for numbers. You have like you have path time field, date time field. You have JSON field. You have file path, which is like to upload a file and stuff like that, right? So different fields, right? And that's how you know them, or that's how you like know which ones to use and whatnot. Or you can just ask on the net. There are people that don't know which fields to use. So that's one of our model. The other one is we want to create a choices model, right? It takes model.model2 and some, and the way we want our models. So let's put this one here so we don't mix it up. I'm going to delete it because this is going to throw an error, obviously. But to help you get, so with our choices, we want to have like a post, a question, right? We want to link to a question, Like I said, every choice must have a question. Like if you want to choose yes, I must ask you a question like, are you happy with Django before you say yes? You cannot just say yes, like it does not make sense, right? I mean, you can just say it, but like you get in the architectural thing, you can't just say it. We have question, we have votes, like which is number of people that said yes, number of people that said no, and we have the choice of text. Probably don't need that one, right? Link to a question and the votes. So now let's represent this one back again, and we need ID, the number. So we need to be able to count the number of like people that have made the choice. So probably want to have something like this. The representation should in your head should be something like 1. You should have the question. Maybe the question is, are you happy about Django? And then you have votes, which is like yes. No, okay, you have votes. Okay, you have like choice of text. Sorry, very important. Choice of text. I mean choice of answer or something. Right, choice of answer where we have like maybe something that would be yes / no, or just any. So choice of text can be yes, like 3 people said yes, or / no, 3 people said yes, 0 said no, or like you get. So can you like have yes no without the question? So this is like that means there's a relationship between this one and this one, right? There's a relationship between choices and model. Now to represent this one, number of choices, to represent this one in a code that Python understands, we have first one, we'll do id equals to what? Models dot primary key, auto increment equals to true. We have link to a question. Question is what? Models dot foreign key question, and delete is models dot cascade. We have choice of answer. Choice of answer, let's put it like this. Then we have models dot character field, maybe max length, we'll get there. Maybe max length is like 20 or something, we can change it. I'm not sure. Then votes is models dot integer field. We have models dot integer field. Then we have like default is 0, right? So initially want it to be 0 0. Alright, so when you choose yes, this one should increment to 1. When you choose another yes, it should increment to 2. When you choose another yes, it should increment to 3. And that's just the idea. Right, so we can remove this now and leave this. And like I said initially, like I said the other time, that what Django already does this ID for us, this auto increment, the counting of like the number of choices, Django already does it for us, right? So we can remove this one. So we want to remove it. So then we remove and voila, we have it like that. So this is our model, right? This is the way we want our pose app to be. So we can remove all these ones. These are just like to explain. Yeah, so there's something with Python so that you guys should notice, please. Like I notice a lot of people don't take. So between classes there should be 2 space, 1 2. There should be 2 between your classes. There should be 2 space. Between 2 space, like between classes there should always be 2 space, and after there should always, like, you can't just end your Python file like this. There has to be a line. Like it's all these little things. It's a Python guideline. Please try to follow it, right? I know some people don't some people ignore it. I mean, it does not mean your code will not work, but then like it makes your code neater and things like that. So now this is our model, right? So you might be wondering, like, how does this enter our database? Like, how does this translate to our database? Well, the thing is, our database does not understand Python. It does not understand JavaScript. It does not understand Perl or any of this language. It does not. The only thing our database understand is what we call SQL, and this is it. SQL, right? The only thing our data understand is SQL. SQL. It's a language which we use to communicate with our database, right? And it is written like this: select star, or like create table, then table name. Then we have like something like these, like 1 2 3 4 char, maybe first name, int second, int age or something. I have like something like this. So these are like weird cryptic syntax. That's what SQL is basically. And think about it, most of you don't even know Python very well already. Now if you have to start learning SQL again, that's just going to like add. Please, if you have time, learn SQL. It's a very useful query language and very, very useful. But like the idea is you don't need to learn it, right? But you can learn it. You should actually, it's advised to learn it, but maybe not now, maybe after the program, right? But so like if you have to learn SQL just because you want to write, do you know how many things you have to learn? Then you have to learn different Git just because you want to get an app running, right? So there's something called a Django ORM, right? And what it does is it translates this Python code that we've written, given that we follow the proper convention, it translates this Python code into what? Into this, into something like this: create table, blah 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 blah. And that's like Django ORM, right? And that's what will lead us into the topic that we call migrations, right? Migrations in Python. But before we do anything related to migrations, I have a question for you. Like, why is it that you've not wondered that? Why is it that if I like, have you maybe you've not thought about it, is like, how is this pose, right? How is it connected to Django? Like, how does Django know about this pool? Like, I mean, we created it already using Django Star, but like, is it actually connected to our app? That's a very good question. Like, ask yourself, think about it. Is it connected? Is it not connected? How do we know if it's connected or not? Right? Show migrations. And this is it. So this command, this what this does is shows us all the apps we have in our Django project. So this is an app: admin, authentication, content type, session. These apps are what automatically created. Like, we didn't create. Did I create anything called admin? Did I create anything called auth? Did I create anything called content types? No, it was automatically created by what? Django. Does that make sense? It was automatically created by Django, and but then it has not been applied. It has been created, but we've not used it. Same thing with our. But then if you notice, we created a pose. Pose is an app now, but why are we not seeing it here? That's because Python does not know we've created pose. It just knows that there's something called pose, but it does not know like maybe where it lives. If we've created it, we've not linked it to our project. And the way to link it to our project is, it's actually very simple. Is you come to LMS, you come to settings.py, and you add it here. Pose, and voila. And if we run Python manage show migrations, see what do we see? We see our pose, but then it does not have any migrations, which is a topic I'll get to later, right? But then it has been added, right? Also there's a way you can add it again. You can do if I'm not post config or something, then you can do something like post.apps.post config, right? If you want to follow this convention, then it should work too. See, it works. So anyone you want, you can use post on two, you can use post, your choice. So like basically post, this post dot app, call to app, then the name of this class, app config, and that's it. So I mean, I guess that should make sense now, right? Like we are already using each of the files. We've used model, we've used apps, we'll get to using admin, using it, we use views, we use URLs and everything, right? And that's like a part of our project. So we've linked our pools. Now let's go to the concept of migrations fully, right? Fully migrations. Before that, let's add a couple of things to Git. So like I said, we always keep track of our process. So that our project has a very nice history, you probably want to do something like git add lms/settings.py. Why? Because we've changed. If you notice, if we remove this thing now, settings.py, it changed back to white, right? And if we come to git status, it will not show anything called settings.py, right? So if we come here and we add it back, it will show that it has been edited. If we do git status, we see we've modified it, right? So to update it again, we'll do something like git add lms/settings.py, right? To change to it won't change to green, but like up here it should change to green. Git status, see, that's changed to green. That means we've added it. Then post again, git add post, right? So if you do git status, it will add everything under post, right? To add everything under post, and we have to let's remove. Then we can do git commit now. Then, like I said, give it a cool message. So we want to say post, right? Instead of using we can say lms post, then create a new app, right? Called create a new app post or something, right? So lms post, create a new app post, and voila, we have it. So if you do git log one line, now we have like 3 commits. So like that's how to use git as you walk along with your code and everything. Now good. So the next thing is to do what is to talk about migrations. So what are migrations? Like now that we've defined this code now, right? It works. Right, so now it works. We've defined our question, right? Let me see if I can go back. So like I wanted to get these things. We've defined our model, right, to be able to make us think in this format, right? So now what do we do? How do we translate this into our database? I said our database does not understand SQL, right? I mean, it does not understand Python, it understands only SQL. So how do we translate this code that we've written into SQL? And I like, if you literally the SQL for this code now is something like, sorry, let me restore back. Git restore post/lms py. Take us back, and that's another advantage of. So that means if I make changes to a file, right, and maybe I edited different things, I can't remember what I did, can just come to git status, then it will give you the command git restore file name. So git restore post/models.py, and it will return it back to our last commit. Or so git restore, it will return it to our last commit, and voila, we have it. So we can continue our work without having to think about, oh, what did I write last? What did I fail to write? What did I not write? So you get the idea. So literally, what this means, this question app now, what we are trying to do, like by writing this class, is that we want to do something like create table question, maybe question, right? And we want to do something like maybe question. We define the very question test, which is a string, something with the type. We want to write pop date, which is a date time field, and that's it. And that this is like what we are trying to write. I mean, this is not the correct syntax, but like this is the idea behind SQL. So like we want to translate this into this, but we cannot do it ourselves. Like we don't know how to write SQL. We are assuming we don't know how to write SQL, so we want Django to write it for us, and that's like where migration comes in a bit. That's not really the migrations, but like we are starting to make sense of what's going on, right? So I clear this one because I don't know what it means. Then now there's a command called python manage.py make migrations. Then you pass the name of the app, Pose. Want to make migrations on Pose, right? Okay. Before that, let's do python manage run server. Let's make sure everything is still running. Everything works fine. Good. Everything works fine. Everything works fine. Good. So like if you read here, there's something called you have 18 unapplied migrations. Your project may not work properly until you apply those migrations for these thesis. So we want to do clear. If we do python manage.py make migrations, right, it will make migrations for all these. So all these things I think I showed you earlier, show migrations, right? It will show all these things, right? That all these things, we need something like that for our Pose app. So we do python manage.py make migrations Pose. See, it creates model question, it creates model choices, creates model question, create model choices. Now if you come to this migration, a new file will have been added. See, it is red, showing that it's just created. We've not added it to Git. If you click on this file, you have a bunch of migrations. Basically just trying to like make sense of what we wrote here, right? What we wrote here, this is it, but without us having to write it. See, automatically generated by Django 3.2 on this time 9:13. That's 10:13 because of the time zone. So like it's literally just created it, right? This is the migrations. We created a model, created another model, right? Now if we go back to python manage.py show migrations, see, now we have Pose that was showing no migrations before. See, no migrations. Now it has the migrations, but then all of them, their brackets are all opened, showing that we've not applied the migration, we just created them. So this is a migration. I wanted to show you something. Let's show you something. See, inside Django source code, like Django source code, there's inside the admin. See, inside the admin of Django, where is it? Wait, this is for me. No, this is it. Inside contrib, see, inside admin, there is a migrations folder. See, this is the migrations folder, and these are the contents. So I click on this one. See, migrations.create model. Migrations.create model. So this is telling us that like internally Python is creating some migrations, even that we don't know. We'll probably understand what they do or not. So like these are migrations that are created by Django itself. So now we are creating migrations for our app. Now the next thing is to what? Is to now apply those migrations to our database, right? To our database. Now let me show you our database. You can connect to our database by coming here, data source. What's the name of our database? SQL, right? So what's the name of our database? db.sqlite3. like this is the name of our database. We want to connect to this database and see what's inside the database, right? Test connections. Fancy, it works. So if you now do apply and okay, and these are our database, we've connected to it. See how it's empty, there's nothing in the database, like literally there's nothing, only SQLite master. This is always automatically generated, like when you buy SQLite. So see, we don't have any tables, we don't have any sort of way to control our information, right? Then now when we make migrations, before that I told you Django helps us to convert from this format to something like this, right? So let's see what Django has written for us. Python, there's another command called python manage.py SQL migrate and 001 we'll pass the name of this file, right, to show us what it means. Migration name, sorry, pose, sorry, you pass the specific one, like pose. You can even do something like admin itself. Let's see, admin, we didn't write admin, but want to check the something. See the create model log entry, create table Django admin log, create index Django admin log accounts. We don't care about those things, but this is the one we care about. Pose, right? Pose 001. You don't need to just enter this 001 is enough. You can do, if you like, you can do, just enter 001 is enough. But I think you can do initial.py. Just write the whole thing. Let's see if it will work. It will not work. It will not work. Sorry. It works. Sorry. So we can do 001 initial, or we can just do 001. Anyone works. Now see. Let me increase it. So now create model questions, create table, poll questions. See, just like I said, create table name, poll questions. ID is what? Integer. First name integer. So I messed it up, but like you get the idea. It's created an ID which is integer, not null. Auto increment. I told you this one was automatically created. We didn't write this one there, but we wrote this one, question text variable character 255, right? Question text variable character 255, not null. That's automatically pop date, then date time, not null. See, exactly. Choices. Now come to choices. See, poll choices. It has a ID, like I said, automatically created. We didn't have to create it. We did not have to create it. Choice answer, we created that one. Choice answer. Votes, question ID. Question ID, because we are linking from choices to questions. Like, and I told you, like, every choice must have a question and every question must have a choice, and that's what we use foreign key for. And this is it. Blah blah blah. Not references poll questions. Like, this is the keyword, references poll questions ID. So it's telling us that there's a link between this and this. Like, you might know that these are all SQL. Like, imagine having to write all these ones just because you want to run this thing. Like, that's like another advantage of Django, where it helps to remove all those stuffs, right? Good. And now we have, since I've shown you the SQL, this is the SQL. Now we can write it to our database. You know what? We can now write it to our, like this. What I'm about to do next now, this Python manage.py migrate. Now we'll write all the, so it will run all this thing on our database. So this is the same thing as, like, the way we run print hello world, right, on something that looks like this, Python 3, right, where we write print hello world, right, and it will print hello world for us. There's something like this too for databases, right, and that's literally what is going to write this command. Where's the command? Sorry, this Python manage migrate will write this whole thing now. So write this whole thing right on that thing. So instead of print hello world, it will now be create not on this one, or like on the database as their own, right? So it will now be like create table so make so blah blah blah. It's right, just like the whole thing, yeah. And we can actually even do it in Python ourselves. Like we can read, you can also do import SQLite, import SQLite 3, and then do db equals to SQLite 3 dot connect. Want to connect to db.sqlite 3. So like SQLite 3 is a Python module, right? And we are connecting to this our database SQLite 3, right? And we can do db.execute. If we know what's it called ourselves, select it from SQLite master. If you like, you can put down. If you like, you can put it I've not written dot fetch all or something. Fetch all or something. I've not written execute all. Is it execute all or something? Yeah, I can't remember. But I know it used to be help. Sorry, to come now. To be close execute, then execute dot fetch all. So it should be something like this, dot fetch all. There's nothing inside. So table. Yeah, there's let's open the SQL master. See, this is the SQL master. There's nothing inside it, right? Like that's why this thing is giving us an empty bracket, because there's nothing inside this one. So like basically, if this what is here, this is the Python equivalence of it, right? If you know how to write, if you understand it, it's just basically importing SQLite 3. We connect to this database, then right, we'll run this SQL query on it. So basically what I just did here now is the same thing as if I did this here. I just come to console. New, I don't know, I have to think that I just like select it, start from SQLite master. This is the name of our database, and if we run it, it will run. See the output. See, nothing, 0 rows to fetch, and that was what we got here. 0, like empty string, empty list is the same thing, right? So now is empty. Now let's make our migrations, right? So let me close this one. Databases can be so crazy. I don't want to see errors that touch. Let's close this one. Then we can have like we can run it again. We will do again. Let's go back here. I hope you understand. If you don't understand, please send me a message on Slack, and I'll be willing and able to like try to explain it to the best of my abilities. Then now this is to make the migration. See, applying blah 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 blah. Now if you come to this SQLite, we'll see that it has changed. See, columns 5. I think columns was 1 before. There is nothing in it. Yeah. Okay. Because okay, now that we've made the migrations, right? What's up? So we can remove this one. We don't need it. Clear. Python manage.py make migrations. There's a way to undo migrations. Migrate, I think help or something. Help migrate to get like list of everything. Okay. Sorry, trying to get the names. Auth session and the content types. Auth. This is how to apply the migrations, like on content types. That does not content types. Then sessions. Now, if we run Python manage.py show migrations, see everything is empty. Yep, just like we never made any migrations. So let me close this one. How do I close the database again? I need to close it. Remove, yes. Okay, yes. Close this Python. And let's I deleted the database. I think when we run server. Yeah, it will automatically create again. See, it's still working fine. Now let's go see db.sqlite. It has been created for us again. So now the next thing is to do Python manage.py show migrations. It's nothing. Let's connect again to the database. SQLite, db.sqlite3. I didn't want that. So now let's make migrations. Python manage.py migrate. So it will apply it. If you do Python manage.py show migrations, right? See, XXX, it means everything has been applied. Why here it was open, now it has all been applied. That means we've pasted everything into our database. And voila. Now let's run our server. No, before that, let's do this. There's a command too that works with migration, where we have Python manage.py shell. This is different from this normal. Sorry, I have to activate my VM. I keep forgetting. So Python manage.py shell. Exactly. So from post.models, right, import question, right, question.objects This is how to query. This is sort of like querying our database. You can actually create question equals to question. If you want to ask a question, how do you define question again? So we have like question underscore test is what URP with Django, right? We have like question dot save something, right? Now when we do question dot object dot all, see, that's already created the question. The object has already been created, and yes, no, I'm going to exit. You can actually create another question, which is question. This question equals no. Let's create it here. Let's go and create it in our admin. So after that, now we have our questions. We've created our questions. We have our init file. We have our console. Select star from questions underscore pools or something. Is it pools question? Sorry. What's the name of pools underscore question? Okay, that was the name of the database. Missing database, no such table or database. That's so how do we solve? Okay, what's going on? SQL error or missing database, no such table, questions. All right, comment properties, save. DB identify identifier .sqlite. I see. That was probably the error. That makes sense. That was where we want to get in that. Now we should we first want to remove this. So what happened was we're actually using a different database from what we said we were using. See, if you check here, properties, there is a identifier.sqlite file which was created. Instead of using this file, we are using this one, right? And that's bad, very bad. So please be careful of that. Now we want to do our terminal. Want to remove ls, want to remove any file that has .sqlite. That's to remove them, or we can manually do something like this: tb.sqlite 3 or identifier.sqlite. If you enter this should work, but this is not what I'm using. I'm going to use something like this. Let's see if it works. But then it does not remove. Okay, now we've deleted the database. Let's run it again. I will run Python managers py run server. That should give us a new server, and it will automatically give us a new db.py file. Is everything running fine? Let's check. So everything runs just the way it should. Now we cancel because that's not even where we are going. We check show migrations. See, because we deleted it, because we deleted the database, all the migrations we made, it has been undone. Like, so migrations is like we apply this that creates SQL, blah, blah, blah. We applied it on our database, right? So when we deleted the database, it does not know that we've applied anything, right? So let's reconnect. You might not have this feature on your PC, so just ignore it, right? You don't have to use it. Basically, all you just need to do is do python manage.py. Let me connect so you can see it as it's happening. SQLite. So instead of identifier, this time we'll use, what's the name of our database? DB. This is the name of our database, db.sqlite3. We test connection. So what happened with the SQLite is, if I cancel this 3 now, right, it creates a new file called db.sqlite. The thing with SQLite is, if it does not see the file you specified for it, it will create a new file, and that's a very big error. Other databases like Postgres now, they will probably throw error if they don't find the database name, but SQLite is not like that. It will literally just create a new database, and you think you are doing the right thing, you think you are doing the Lord's work, but really I was doing shit. Oh yeah, excuse my language. You are doing what was not right apparently. So that's it. Then we have apply. Okay, you have you can apply, then do okay. You have do okay. Alright. So now SQL migrate pose 0001, and this is it. This is the code. This is what we are going to be writing into our database. Literally, this is what we get typed inside. I mean, we are not going to type it, but this is how we are going to type it from our end. So just doing python manage migrate, right, and to apply everything. So now if we come here and refresh, see, new tables have been created. See, admin, alt, admin, and this is our questions and the choice table that we just created. See, question, it has ID, choice, answer. This is questions rather. ID, question, test, pub date. If we go to our models, we have question, date, pub date. I told you ID is automatically created, right? If you do select, this is just because I know basic SQL syntax, right? If you do this and run it, you should now get a return value. Sorry, excuse me, I was running something else entirely. Let me remove this configuration. Sorry. We have our VM already. We don't need you. Sorry, this is what I was supposed to run. Yes. See, it will tell us all the tables. This code will tell us all the tables we have in our SQL in our SQLite database. So see, this is our table poll question and poll choice, which the two tables we created, right? Is it? So please, like, take the time to go and understand the concept of databases, tables, indexes, and all those stuff. So a database is like the big thing. Then inside databases, you create tables like to model your information, right? So this is our question table. This is our choices table, right? And now if we do python manage.py shell, this is a command tool for accessing our Django project, python manage.py shell. Then if we do compose.models import question, you can import this question and you can import choices, right? So if we do question dot objects dot all, it's empty. So this is basically the same thing as just doing this, like refresh. See, do we have any feed here? No, we don't have any feed. So but if we do question, right, if we do question equals to question, we have question test. You don't need to add ID will be automatically added. The only things you can enter are what you define here. If you don't define it here, and this one you don't need to add it because this auto now add, so it will automatically add the date for us. All we need to specify is the question test, right? So if you come here, you do question test equals to how add is Django question.save, and if you refresh here, see number one, our this Django. You can actually even create it from here, but most of you will not have this database in your PyCharm because you'll be using the community edition, and this is not the community edition. So you can ask another question, which is a question like 2 something, and question test is how easy is Python. Right, so you can do question2.save, and if you refresh, you get it here, how easy is Python. And if you do questions.object.all, you get all the questions. This is the question 1, this is the question 2, question 1, question 2, right? So and that's the migrate for you. So, but like, what does migrate actually do? Migrate is just like Git, right, where it's used to manage the state of your database schema, or like database schema is just your database structure basically. So like, this is the present structure of our database. We've represented it in this information here. Now if you want to add maybe a field called like question description, right, question description, right, maybe we're already in production, then maybe a user now said he or she needs a question description field where we have the mask length is 255, or like, yes, 255. Now we've made changes to it. Now what do? If we do clear, if we do python manage.py show migrations, everything gets migrated. But if we want to apply, we'll first do python manage.py make migrations, right? Because we've made changes to our model. Anytime we change our model, we always need to update our make migrations. Oh, sorry, I want to add something to def string. I think this is an all string equals to self dot question tests return self question test. I will explain what that does in a while. Choice answer something. Yes. So now if we do, we've made a lot of changes to our models, right? If we do python manage migrate polls, right, see, you are trying to add a non-nullable field question description to question without a default. We can't do that. True, and let me add default. So what the error we get is this. So we already have 2 questions in our database. Like, we already have this and this and this. We already have how is Django and how easy is Python, right? And now we are trying to add a new field called question description. So like, what would be the question description for this one and this one? You don't get, like, tables have to be structured, like they have to literally be like this. If number one has name, ID, type, number 2 it's not like should. It should have a name field. It might be empty, but it should have it. Name field, type, right? Number 3 too should have name, ID, every, like, that's the way databases are. It might not be non-null, but like everything must have the same fields. And that's like the error we are getting, where our first 2 R's, they don't have type, right? And the third one now wants to add type. So this is why we get this telling us that you are trying to add a non-nullable field question to question the defaults. So now if you now set default, now it will mean this one will now have its own type, right? But the type now, it will now be type equals to none, or like type equals to none, or like whatever you want to name. And if you name your default to be like type equals to basic description or something, basic description. If you do basic description, right, and that's what will happen. So let's quit, let's enter 2. Then let's go back to our models. We want to add default to this one because we are just adding default equals to what, basic description. Right, now let's do Python manifolds again. See now, add field question description to question. So if you come here, there should be a new migration. So like before you can make any changes into your database, this is like the intermediate stage where you write it in your models, you migrate it to generate a file, then you now commit it into your database, just like git init, git add, git commit, but like with databases. Does that make sense? Exactly. So now this is it, questions, add field. Now let's check the you know, this is not actually what is being written to our database, this is just the Python code. Now let's check the SQL that is actually being written. 002, and we have it. Yeah, this is it. See, actually what Python is doing is it will delete the old table. Wow, that's crazy. It will delete the old table, right? This is the create table, new post, blah blah blah. It will delete the old table, but before it will create a new table, it will copy the content of the old table, right, which is post question. It will copy it into the new table that was created, right? And that's just basically what it does. So this is it. Let me write it down so you guys can literally see it. You understand what I mean by this. So what Python is going to do is, I mean, what happens is that, you know, let's say the name of our format table, old table name, is what equals to post question, right? Post question. So what it will do is it will create a new table, create table like new post table question or something, right? But the field now this time it will be name, right? Maybe it's a string, it will be age or something. It will be name, it will be date, then it will now have description. Do you get, you know the old what's it called, the old table was just something like this. The old table was something like this. This was the old table. The old table was something like this, right? Where it had name string, date, and description. Where the name string is basically our, so the name string is this name, the date is this date, but oh sorry, this one did not have description. So the name is this name, the date is this date, but it does not have description, right? So what it does is, you know, we've entered a couple of data like these two, right? These two data, it will copy it from this database, it will copy it into this database. So anywhere it sees description, it will now put basic description. Then you get, so it will populate this O2 with basic description, and that's basically what it's doing. So that's what it creates, a new table, it inserts all the text back into it. Then the last thing it now does is what, it will now rename the table. So now rename table from new post question, which is the name of our new table, to the old name, which is what, post question. And that's just alter table new post question, rename to post question, and that's all. So like all these things, it might be nice to know it, but if you don't know it, it does not stop you from like actually doing what you're supposed to do, right? And that's basically, this is just what happens. Now we can now do python manage.py. Let's migrate and applying it, so it's now being our database. Now if we come back here and refresh, see, now we have basic description. Well, and that's migrate for you. So now if you want to change another field again, let's say you want to probably add a field here, it will do the same thing again, create a new table, populate the old table, then rename the table again. Like that's how Python does everything it does. So the reason this I added this for this the reason I added this is a Python thing. So it's not database related. That's why it did not prompt anything. This is Python related, not database related. So you notice the way our question is showing right now, right? See the way it's showing. Now if I exit, because we've done some changes to our database, and I do Python 3 again, and I from poll dot what models import questions, question and choices. So if I what happened? Sorry. Python from pools dot questions import question start choices. Sorry, pools dot model. Been typing for so long, I'm so tired. Models, right? But what's happening? Now I understand. Sorry, what is happening is with this. You know, I told you. You know, I told you there's a difference between this Python, right, and this that I entered. See what I entered? I entered Python manage.py shell. Why here? I was not entering Python, so it won't work, right? Python will just create a new Python application, but Python manage.py shell will create an application that has all this model and everything inside it, right? Python manage.py shell, right? And from what? From pools dot what? Models import question, then choices, then question sorry, then I want to have question dot objects dot all. This is just querying all the data objects in the database. See now how hard is Django. See, before it was showing us, what was it showing? It was showing us question object 1, question object 2. But because I added this to return the name self.question test, that's why it was not that is why it is now showing how hard is Django, how is it. So at least when you see the model, you have an idea that, oh, this is this model, this is this model. And really, that was like the concept of models and the way they work. In our next video, we'll create another model called we'll talk about the admin. So one more thing to do is to commit our changes into the database, right? Okay, git status, right? We do, oh yeah, I want to make the misc.txt file available for you, so you can just see this stuff and then you have an idea of what's going on. Right, so we have git add misc. Rather, I can just do, well, let's check what was the last thing we were talking about. So you can just do git commit and git add dot git status. It has everything added. Git no, that's I do it like this. Git status, git, sorry, don't git restore. I don't want to add everything to preserve our history. So the first thing we'll do is git add everything that ends with .py, or rather git. Okay, that might be too much for you guys. Let's just do git status, git add pools slash, yes, let's add pools, yes. Then we can now commit it. Git commit what then let's say pools. I have to make the name as yeah, about migration. We always commit our migration because, like, let's say for example now I make like migrations, like I make like 3 migrations, and you want to make the same migrations on your like you would probably make the same, like think about in production now. If you have like a clothing store, right, and you have like 4 columns, right, and you add a new column. So when you're coming from your local storage, right, you need to have like your schema ready that you can just apply in production instead of having to like start generating migrations again. So it's advisable to always commit your migration files in case of others that want to like have the same structure of database you have on your local PC, like the same structure of database you have. If others want to have it, they need to have access to your migrations, so you need to always commit your migrations. So you can have like update model and update pool models. Please let's make it as pools model and what make migrations, right? And that's it. So now that's a commit on its own. Then let's add another commit again. Git add mic.txt. Why did I separate it? Because they are different things. One is for the migration, while the other one is for like miscellaneous file. So please, your history is very important. Like now, if I look at this history now, I have an idea of like the startup project was just a basic startup, add additional management files, okay, that create a new app, makes sense, update pool model and make migration, good. Like it's step by step. I'm not merging different things together, right? I have a clear history. Then git status, then we have git commit. You've already added your mic data, you can add it. Then you say and say like docs or something, because it's miscellaneous. Let me see, I don't know how to spell miscellaneous or something. Miscellaneous, I think that's it. Might be wrong. Miscellaneous text file for what video explanation. See, like sourcing and straight to the point. Now we have git status, git log, one line, and yeah, that's it. So we have everything we need. So we can cancel this one, cancel this one, and that's it.